Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
I have the mentality of a drummer, but I don't have the rhythm. Does that make sense?
No. Expand. What do you mean mentality of a drummer?
Like I have drummer energy, I feel like, but I don't have the rhythm.
So you're just saying I'm George Michael in Arrested Development where you're like, I'm punctual.
Yes. No, I just mean I have the vibes of a drummer. Like if you saw me.
Oh,
if
okay.
you like, if someone
Drummer
told
energy.
you they're in a band
You're like, that
about
guy's
me,
the
you'd go, that's the drummer, right? Like
That's true. There is an energy of drummers and bassists and guitarists. You know, everyone everyone is something.
Everyone is something.
I know that's no wisdom here, Dave, but like
It felt like it.
honestly, your comments are not that deep, so I'm not going to expound on
That's
them.
fair. Listen, hi everybody. Hello. My name is David Bell.
I'm Abe Epperson. I'm filling in for what was his name?
Timas.
Timao.
And we just watched Gladiator. Two eyes.
Two eyes. Gladiator 2 eyes.
I remember that day. I never forgot it. That a slave could take revenge against an emperor.
They could have done Gladiators. Why didn't they do the aliens? Because there are multiple gladiators in this.
I honestly hate that. I already hate that sequels in general. That's the energy I'm bringing here.
I hate naming sequels. Like, that's the worst part of a sequel. Yeah. They're all bad. Even the number, I'm like, he couldn't think of anything else. But then when they think of anything else, I'm like,
what would
just
it
do a
be,
number.
Dave?
Gladiator.
What would it be? A new number system?
Gladiator
B?
Money Never Sleeps. Gladiator B. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So subtitles or no?
Or just call it a different, just make a new title. That's not confusing, right?
Call it
Fight
the
Guy.
Third Spartacus.
Yeah. Abe, before we get started, I feel like we're already in it, but
sure.
Thank you so much for being on. Will you plug some stuff? Will you tell people where we can find you?
Yeah, hey, I'm just a listener, and I like what this guy's saying. I should go over to patreon.com/smallbeans, where this guy, Abe Epperson, and Michael Swaim, and Adam Ganzer, and the Gamefully boys, we all have a podcast empire as well. And we talk about the same stuff.
Why did you frame it? You started from the perspective of the listener, and then you moved out of the perspective of the listener.
I just want to feel again,
No, that's fair. Did you not feel again? All right, wait, hold on. Are we done with plugs? Do you have anything else? Okay. Everybody check them out. We've been doing D&D over there. Also, Inside Dads, which is kind of what this feels like, an unofficial episode.
I was thinking the same thing, Dave.
Yeah, because this tickled the dad in me. Tickled him hard.
There is so many women in trouble.
There's so many women in trouble.
It is. Yes. It is a lot.
Women are in peril.
And there's so many daddies who die who are like, I love you, son.
Yes,
I could love you like a son.
Extra dad shit in it. There's so much reverence for like the dream of Rome.
Yeah. I just want to ask you a simple, straightforward question.
Yeah.
How old, without looking it up, how old do you think Ridley Scott is?
Oh man, I'm guessing I'm gonna go the Shatner direction, which is that like Shatner is like in his 90s, so I'm gonna say Ridley Scott is 105.
He is 86 years old.
Oh yeah,
soaking wet. It is amazing that he is able to lean, much less make a movie of this caliber on this scale. Just everyone, just like, let's just think about that for a second. Bravo.
This isn't, I don't mean this to be cynical, but I think with older directors now, I think they get to Lucas it. And what I mean is, I'm guessing because when Lucas made the Star Wars and he did everything on a green screen, or when Peter Jackson made the Hobbits, it wasn't good enough to do that. These days, this is all to say that I bet a lot of this is digital. A lot of the scale of this movie is digital. And it's like we're allowed to do that now. Like Ridley Scott is allowed to just sit on a green screen and have naps because it's like the CGI, as long as you're paying enough for the good quality, it looks good. Like this looked good is what I'm getting at.
And he has an empire of people to manifest a very great product visually and audio wise. For sure. It's a lot. It's just a lot. And I think that that's crazy. And 2024 seems to be the year of the old hats.
Yes.
Are coming out.
Yes. I wanted to actually talk about this in context of Megalopolis. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
I also want a disclaimer. I don't really remember the first Gladiator. I need to rewatch it.
Oh, it's great.
It is. Yeah. But that's all to say that like, I didn't have trouble following this, but I don't remember if this is like a ripoff of the first one that much because it is.
It dawned on me about 15 minutes with the extension of like that 2 hour and 30-minute runtime.
Right.
Like basically what they added like 15 minutes of story about like, oh, by the way, you're the son of Russell Crowe. And the little they added more in the battle. I mean, like,
I guess, okay, spoilers from here on.
Yeah.
My thought was I thought they're just going to like, it feels like you know how in the Jurassic Park you had the T-Rex, and then the Lost World they're like, well, let's do 2 T-Rexes.
Right.
This felt like the promise was like we have 2 Joaquin Phoenixes this time, double the Emperors who are like,
it's kind of
Emperor.
It's that simplistic. I mean,
But I guess my question is, and this is getting into spoilers, the Denzel of it all.
Yeah, he's the Shake It Up, which he does wonderfully.
Without spoiling it, this felt more like Orphan 2, where they're like, oh, you think you're getting this type of orphan. Nope, twist, it's a different type of orphan. This is all to say I loved this movie. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time.
Yeah, that is the one big difference, is I guess conceptually is the Oliver Reed character who is, let me look at it, Proximo in the first one. He's like just a part of the system, you know, where he's just like, I am a gladiator owner, so I am a slave owner. I'm a bad guy. I know what it is, but like I also was a gladiator myself, so he's like kind of the good guy, and he's like rooting for Russell Crowe the whole time. It is revealed in this movie that Denzel is like kind of supportive, but also like a Iago-esque figure where he's like, I'm gonna get mine, motherfucker, and I'm lying to you all the time. And then when the bow breaks, kind of like where it's like, oh, he's putting his hand in for the, I guess this is how it worked in Roman times. You put your hand up for emperorship and you kill a few children, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we like the cut of your jib. You're the guy now. So he was taking over Rome the whole time, which is a no-no because, as Gladiator proves once again, they are exactly the same film, more or less, in terms of intention. Rome is an idea, and it's a people. It's not It's not any particular structure.
The twist here is like, and I do it. Did you enjoy this movie,
dude? Top 2 things: fight scenes,
and
Denzel Washington.
Yes, Denzel is he's just Denzel for a lot of the scenes. And what I mean by that is like he could have been like on his phone in a scene, and I wouldn't have even thought about it.
I thought that at the beginning, and then it slid completely away from that, where I was like, "This is a transcendental." Like,
you're right. Okay,
performance.
so
like this is top tier Denzel. Like this is training day, dude. This is him on training day.
No, I'm not saying like he should be nominated at least for this. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's using his charm of Denzel.
Yeah, sure.
And it's sort of to sneak up on you because that I didn't see it coming, which is the idea that Denzel is presented in the trailer and in the start of this movie is like what you're describing with the other guy.
With Proxima,
where
like, you assume he's going to be a good guy.
Or at least a complicated good guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like he's rooting for him. He knows the system. I thought maybe he's going to use him to get his own revenge, but still be a good guy. And then you realize, like, no, he is gaming the entire situation.
Yeah, he wants to burn it all down. He's the Joker, baby.
He's an accelerationist, which brings me to what this movie is sort of about in terms of America. Because I think it's Ridley Scott basically saying like, there's the people who are like, it's all broken, burn it down. Mm-hmm. And then versus no, that we have to have hope for the reverence for the dream of Rome. We have to fight for democracy. It's just funny. It's just funny looking at that versus Megalopolis. Where it's like the other side where the old guy is like, what if a rich guy fixed everything?
What if a rich guy fixed? Yeah, there's so many parallels. Not to mention the one that made me like laugh out loud in the because I realized it's more fitting for Gladiator II, but there must have been a book in 2022 or 2023 or something that was based on Marcus Aurelius's life, because this is now Coppola has multiple quotes from Marcus Aurelius in Megalopolis, and obviously Marcus Aurelius, played by Richard Harris in the first one, is quoted multiple times from his books, like a quote of like to represent him. It's just like so funny.
It's the battle of the uncles at Thanksgiving. It's that vibe.
There must be a newsletter of books that goes out to only 80-year-old men.
Yes.
And it's just wonderful to see that it's thriving.
Yeah, they're getting emails. They're getting the same emails, the chain mails. Yeah.
Maybe I'll make a movie about it.
It's great. Yeah, because like it's two different, I think, flawed ideas, and one's a little more nice than the other. Like this is like the liberal feeling of like, no, America is great. You know, we don't like, it's not the system. The system isn't the problem. It's the bad people in it. Whereas versus, libertarian, we just need to
it's
like
fascinating. Cause if you look at, what is his book? Meditations. He has multiple books, I think, but like, that's the one they both movies quote from heavily from that. And it's the end. If you read any of that, it's like the end of an empire feeling. Like he's like, I've lived life, and this is what I took from it. This is where I got my happiness. This is what I thought was important is not important, and stuff like that. That it just feels like the energy of an old man who realizes that they're at the end of a Hollywood empire, and they're like, oh shit, I see how it's going. And I wish it was different for the youth, but it's not. And I had the good times, and I got to be grateful for that. And it's all these complex thoughts coming out of a long life of having lived. So it fits. It totally fits. It's just funny that it all comes out in the wash. Like it's proving us all right.
Yeah, the optimism is very vague. Even in Megalopolis as well. Where it's like, the youth is the future. How will they solve it? They'll solve it.
They'll solve it. It's the same attitude as the end of this film. Yeah, it was
they'll figure it out.
Like he literally says, like, this was an old man's dream. It's dead, but it's a good dream. Let's try to make the dream happen.
Yeah,
and it's like the old people saying to the youth, "Hey, we tried." It's boomers going, "Hey, like look."
Yeah.
We didn't set out to be bad guys, and we realize that we're now maybe bad guys to y'all. So maybe you just listen to the reasons why we did the thing, because that we still stand by. And it's like, well, yeah, of course it's all good stuff. It's like, be good to one another, like,
yeah,
it's not complex. That's why it's easy to get on board with.
Right. And again, this dream of Rome, this idea of like, it works. And it's like, not even your own movies have shown that it works. Like that, and that's sort of the point, right? Which is like the dream is perilous. It's like it's an honor system that could be broken so easily, and that's why it's like, yeah, maybe it doesn't work. I'm not siding with Denzel or anything, but like Denzel is the opposite, where he's basically like, in Rome, the only thing that matters is power. So I'm gonna use crooked ways to get power to put a dipshit in charge. Like it felt very Trump.
He's my dipshit puppet. Yeah.
Yeah. He's basically Rome Steve Bannon in this. Like
this is sneaky. Like, I will say, first off, it's much more enjoyable watch the Megalopolis. Not just for the fighting, but like there is still sneaky smart stuff. Like the idea of putting like once again, spoiler. Like the way they kill off one of the emperors.
Yes.
The Fred Hitchinger is just stab him in the ear.
Yeah, like an Assassin's
Which is just
Creed
such
move.
a like, that's exactly what you do when you're Denzel in this role. When you're the Iago character, you're just like, pour this poison right into your brain. You know, it's just like, it's Shakespearean. It's very classic. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff in this movie. Even though it is not reductive, but like derivative in the way in which it proceeds. But I mean, Gladiator, the original, was derivative of Spartacus with bells and whistles. It's all the same stuff. It's a great story to be told time and time again. I have no problem with that. Like, that's not the problem with the sequels. The problem with sequels is the rote kind of we have to chase this kind of thing that was successful, and what we assume and think is the reason, the special sauce that the people like, we have to pay homage to that, right? So put that scene, and it's like, no, that's not how organically you find a moment. You don't say slap it on there. That's not why we love that scene, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the thing that I like the most about this, I'm thinking about the fighting. Yeah, I mean, the part where he puts on the armor felt like it's like a Marvel moment, but it didn't feel unearned either. It's more of just like, he's in the same place his dad died. The guy takes him aside and goes, by the way, here's his grave. You're asking about him. And then it's like, okay, they take away all his armor, and it's like, where am I going to get armor and sword?
Daddy's.
Well, yeah, I'll grab that shit, It also breaks later, the sword, and they treat it unceremoniously, not like, oh my god, how dare he. Like, they don't treat it like, they don't treat it like he's picking up this like artifact that's like a real, like, it's not treated with a huge amount of reverence.
It's not Indiana Jones' hat.
Exactly. Or it's like, you got to protect the hat. It's not that. And so it felt fine. My biggest thing I loved about this was just the soap opera of it all. Like, it was more that, like, the fighting
was more enjoyable. Like,
they were fine. The fighting was fine. I didn't like, I think Ridley Scott knew it. Like, the final fight I love, which is him and Denzel
in a ditch
while two armies just sit back and go like, guys, I don't think we have to do anything. I think we're getting the day off today.
Yeah, we might not have to die.
Yeah. This is a sweet deal.
Which is the goal. It's great. And I also love that it's brutal and like
Denzel
kind of pathetic.
Him. Yes, Denzel is such a little weasel.
He's like, stab you. He's like, I got armor, man. You're not going to get me.
I love, because Denzel, to me, the biggest challenge of Denzel as a weasel is that Denzel is one of the coolest fucking people in the world.
Yes.
He's so cool.
Effortlessly charming.
Yes. And so to make him a weasel, it's tough to do, but it's not impossible.
Not at all.
I always think about, I've been thinking about this for years, about they should remake The Third Man, which is such a big task. and you cast Denzel as Orson Welles, and it would be so good.
That's actually not a bad stunt cast, to be honest.
Isn't it?
It's for the same. I know the reason you're going to say
smile.
it's because it's the Jackal kind of confidence.
Yep.
I mean, it's why again I bring up Training Day because the performances are very similar. He's just a straight up villain when you cut through it. But there is this kind of 30-minute hesitance that the audience has because of the infectiousness of Denzel Washington. They're like, he's probably just a complex figure, right? And it's like, yes, he is, but he's also terrible.
Right. He's really good at playing like a con man.
Yeah.
A weird comparison is, what is that film? Out of Sight? Is that what I'm thinking of? Or is it Out of Time?
Out of Time, maybe? No, I don't. I think I know what you're talking about, but I just can't stop thinking about Deja Vu. When you talk about that era of Denzel Washington.
Right. It's Out of Time. And Out of Time, do you remember the plot of that movie?
It's not Deja Vu.
I used to watch it on TV all the time. It's a great plot. He is a Florida police chief.
And it goes everywhere, right?
Well, he's trying to solve a murder while covering up the fact that he's the prime target, that he was having an affair, I believe, with the person... with the it's either the husband of or the victim.
Yeah.
And so the whole movie is him being charming, but a scumbag, but it's from his perspective. So you're watching him and you know he's innocent,
a rat in a corner,
but you know he's
basically.
also not. That's what it is. I think he stole money out of evidence and gave it to her. That's what he did. So it's like he did a shitty thing, but
every scene it's him walking from one room to another, basically going like, I have to do a little bit of lying in order to get out of the situation, and just spins out of control. And you just see him basically handle it the whole time until he doesn't.
He's Nicolas Cage in Snake Eyes, where it's like, also you're a scumbag, but you're not a murderer. It's that feeling.
Well, yeah, Snake Eyes is a little different because he's like trying to do something. He's trying to solve a crime.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Or like him in Fences, he was kind of a scummy guy in that too. I only saw that once.
I think that was more of a redemption story. Out of Time is it's a dirtbag who has good intentions but is ultimately doing bad stuff and should go to jail, kind of stuff. At a certain point, it's like, all right, you stop lying to everyone, so much. If I remember the film correctly.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely he did a bad thing. He didn't do, he got conned is the idea.
Yeah. Which is the same kind of set. Ridley Scott himself has done this type of story. This occupies a lot of Ridley Scott's mind as well. These types of characters. If you just think back, one of his early mainstays was Thelma and Louise, right? Is that not the same kind of character? Although they are obviously more, there's more redemption there. There's more the system is broken. And it's not the Denzel he's trying to burn it all down because he sees how ineffectual and how manipulative the system is to some people, but he doesn't care about all of the people. He doesn't care about Romans. He's just I was a slave, so fuck this whole institution. But you get a lot of those characters in Ridley Scott's stories as well, where it's okay, so our bad guy isn't necessarily, it's usually a system that is the problem. Yeah. It's not usually this guy who's meh.
But it just works really well with Denzel because the reason he can play these roles is because he is so cool. And so many scenes in this where he's just shooting the shit. And he's so naturally charming that it's you can tell why this guy would slither through this. Because basically,
he basically does it through one guy who's just sucks. There's this high-ranking senator who just sucks and has a gambling problem.
Gambling debts. Yeah,
that he's just literally the audience loved it that I was at when the scene where he's I have your house. I own your house.
I own your
Everyone
house.
started laughing their asses off.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I almost teleported out of the theater and I was like, dude, the whole institution of the Ridley Scott, all the people who worked on this, Denzel, obviously, doing the brunt of the work here. Like, this is movies, baby. Like, this is working on the audience in a way that is like,
I hope this is
magical.
Well. Yeah, because this is like, it's funny because I feel spoiled lately because Marvel and Star Wars have taken a beat, essentially. So I don't feel like I'm drowning in superhero movies anymore. But this is a nice reminder of like, yes, these are movies.
Yeah.
This is a movie, even though it's a Gladiator sequel.
And can we say, like, I don't think that he's not like a star that like this, like, we'll see. This role doesn't make me go that Paul Mescal is like the guy now. He's not like got that star quality necessarily yet because he's played this one role, but he played it. He nailed it. Like there is something to be said about, in the same way that Russell Crowe was, to develop in a scene with just like, okay, so it's just you and this doctor, and he's suturing you up, or it's like you and this kid and he's got like, you're talking about horses, where he's just almost immediately like, it's that equal charisma as Denzel has, where he's just like, oh, they are like people. Like, Paul Mescal is doing so much in this movie to just be like, I'm having like, I am of these people, like more effectively than any time I think that I've ever seen this, even in Ridley Scott's Pantheon, with like Robin Hood and with Russell Crowe. It's like, I am one of the people, and it always feels forced. It always feels like, no, you're kind of noble and we're more about that story, and you're not like crafting scenes where it's like you're amongst people, just normal Romans talking. And it's like, oh, those scenes were almost the best in The Thing, where he's just like making jokes and getting whipped,
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like he says something and everyone's like, that guy's fucking funny. It's just
great.
like, he is funny.
The casting in this is very good because I don't know, you think about Russell Crowe, where it's like Russell Crowe, he's not a chameleon, right? He doesn't work in everything. He's not Daniel Day-Lewis. But it was like Ridley Scott looked at him and went, that guy works perfectly in this role. It's one of those, right? Where it's like, you're like, maybe Paul Mescal is going to be a chameleon. I don't know. I just know that he's perfect for this role.
He really worked for this. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a lot. I think Pedro Pascal is another one where it's like, it's a little stunt casting, where the thing about Pedro Pascal is that he always seems to have kindness on his face. He always seems to be a kind person. The
catharsis is real with him.
Yeah.
Like, I did have, when he was fighting in the Gladiator pit, I was like, this is Game of Thrones. This is bread, baby.
Yeah.
Like, this is how he works.
Go for the eyes.
Yeah, go for the eyes. That's
get his eyes.
Weakness. But it's like, it is that. You really do feel that. And I it's almost sad about, like, bigger actors and that, like, character actors, like people who started as character actors and then the world fell in love with.
Yes.
And I put my man
Brad
Pedro
Pitt.
in this. Yeah. With Legends of Fall and Thelma and Louise and stuff like that.
12 Monkeys. Like, he used to be like such a.
And it's less like Bruce Willis, and it's like, okay, fucking Die Hard. Okay. Like, but like with these guys who kind of like got into, like the stratosphere of, top star, like Pedro Pascal, like he is, it's weird to see him in roles that he's been doing all the time. Cause it's like, is this typecast? And it's like, no, he's only done like 2 or 3 of them. He's actually been doing all of these things.
Oh yeah.
But he got famous for like a role that was very specific and not nuanced, like a protagonist. Like where it's like you're following this guy. And it's just, I don't know, to me, that's interesting that there's this effect of our man Pedro, where it's like you almost feel like he has to be a certain thing in order for you to like him, and you feel weird about that because like, he's capable of so much. It's that weird effect that I think comes with just like how different stars become big stars. It's like there are many different ways in which to accomplish that goal, I guess. But
he's also like,
there's a weird expectation I think the audience typically has.
Yeah. He was also a dead man the moment I saw him in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's a dead man.
His dead face.
Well, it's just in this. It's
in
just
these
like
types of roles.
you look at his you look at his role in this, and you're like, you're like a third wheel, you're just like what are you to be there if not to die? Yeah, like yeah.
And you're not the main guy.
You know who also I want to talk about,
Alec Guinness.
In terms of like rising star, is of course Joseph Quinn in this, which is
the main emperor or the mouthpiece emperor.
The evil one, not the one with the monkey. The one with the monkey did great too. I just haven't seen him in as much.
He was
the
in
two
White
emperors.
Lotus,
This movie is filled with hedonism bots. You know,
yeah,
like
it's so funny.
I love that
they do
Matt
it really
Lucas,
well,
the
too.
announcer, is the guy from British Bake Off.
Yeah,
and he's essentially doing the same gig in this.
Yeah, and he's like whipping wine at people and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, "Let the games begin."
Yeah, it was like, of course that's who he plays in this. Of course.
Yeah, but I mean, there's multiple. You're right. There's also a party at one time where everyone's just like, "Yes, blood."
Yeah. There's like 30
wine.
characters that would say, "Bring me the boy."
Yeah.
Like there's so many. And Joseph Quinn is one of them. The two emperors who are just sociopaths presented as. Yeah. And Joseph Quinn is one of those guys who I'm like, right now he's doing a lot of like early Brad Pitt. He's doing a lot of, I'm playing these like wildly different and weird characters. He's great in A Quiet Place, in the new Quiet Place. I didn't even realize it was him at first. I liked him in The Stranger Things. He's just been around for...
Oh, he was in The Strange Things.
Yeah, he's the metalhead.
He's the boy.
Yeah,
he's the boy with the haircut, the big hair.
That's what I mean. Is like he feels like an early Brad Pitt, where he's showing up playing like wildly different characters, and they're sticking shit all over him and wigs and stuff. And then I feel like I'm scared for him. I'm scared he'll become a Brad Pitt, and then he'll just have to play himself. Like I don't know. He just seems like a someone to keep an eye on here. Like I'd buy stock in him if he was a company.
He definitely brought it for this performance. Yeah, I mean, he had a insurmountable task,
right? Because he's the red herring. So he's just like, I am this cruel, stereotypical bad guy, and you're like, this is the guy. Like I don't know about you, but I thought the journey of this movie at the start was that. So I don't know why people would have seen the movie listening to this, but like. Basically, Pedro Pascal orders the death in war of the main guy's wife. And so she dies in battle. And you sort of know from the condition of that, it's going to be a gray area, right? Like, he's not evil.
He's just a soldier, and she is a casualty of war. It's not like he's out for her, or anything like that.
She shoots at him, and he says...
thousands of people,
Yeah, she shoots at him and he tells his men, like, get the archer, go get the archers.
Yeah, there's a moment.
Yeah, and so that's it. So the revenge is like misplaced. And so my thought was the whole idea was going to be, he for some reason he saves the end of the arrow that shot his wife
and doesn't do anything with it.
Well, that's what I thought that was cool. I will say, he's like, where is he putting that thing as a slave?
Yeah,
where was he keeping it?
He's keister, baby. It's in the cheeks.
Yeah, it's in the prison wallet.
These are things you learn.
Yeah, keeping that arrow. You
stumbled on perhaps the biggest flaw of the movie, honestly.
Oh, I think this is a red herring because I think what I was thinking is like, okay,
not the arrow.
He wants to stab that through the heart.
I thought that's how they were going to utilize it. It didn't bother me that they didn't.
Okay,
but I assumed that's what they were going to do, is like a Chekhov's.
And I thought there'd be a moment.
Arrow. Yeah,
I thought there'd be a moment where Pedro Pascal basically, because they established that he hates the Emperor, and so I thought there would just be a moment where the main character realizes he's not the villain. It's the Emperor. It's the system man. Yeah. And then I'll stab him with this. And it was a nice misdirect.
It was nice. Well,
like I don't know what it says politically, like, but it's for storytelling. I liked that. I thought
it was a
like,
zag instead of a zig for sure. I have the same kind of that cadence, that maneuver. Totally, I'm on board. Like I'm in the same mind as you are in terms of like that was a good move. It felt fresh to me that they weren't like dwelling on it or whatever. But it's all a part of the hero's journey that is the biggest flaw of the movie for me, which is we have like almost back to back in terms of development scenes where our main character, who is Lucius, the boy from Gladiator I, or better known as his, Spartacus name, which is Hanno.
Yes, it kept sounding like they were saying Hana. And I was like,
yeah. Like that. Oh, okay.
I was like, Hana, you're represented.
But like, it's the flaw is that, like, to me, that he is like, the only thing I want to do is like, I want to stab like Pedro Pascal as hard as I can because he's the guy who killed my wife. And then he kind of has a scene with his mother. And the first scene is like him going like, you abandoned me, which is true. And so I have no allegiance to you. And then almost nothing changes, but we see the turn of the tide because then the Denzel character comes in and off screen stuff that our main character knows nothing about really, is like his machinations are working such that Rome will fall unless a hero stands up and fights him and there's no one there. And then we just have this weird heel like switch. So it needs to have a hero switch and there's no method or reason or scene where our main character actually sits down and goes, oh, I understand now. Even though my anger is legitimate, like it's not the anger that's needed right now. And so we just see a scene where he's like, oh, I don't want to lose you, Mom, anymore. It's like literally the second scene. They have not talked to each other, and it's like a 180. And the
he's
same
like,
thing,
Mom, you're my new wife now.
And the same thing happens when they're in. He's like, I want to kill Pedro Pascal so bad, and he's literally fighting. And I'm like, well, this is not going to end well. And then it ends well. It ends in a way that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
because he's like, oh, I understand now that you're just a peon on these assholes' chessboard. And it's just like, I don't know. You gotta have a scene, man. You gotta.
It also doesn't transfer. And what I mean is that, like, if the anger, if the arc is, I'm not mad at you anymore, Pedro. I'm mad at the larger system that made you do that.
He needs to see that. The
problem is Denzel isn't that.
Exactly.
He's like, no, I'm taking it down. You should be joining me. And so, like, he's kind of right,
Yeah, the problem is you have two revolutions happening. One that is more centrist and one is more extreme.
It's hard because I do like the link, which is that when it first starts, Denzel's a very good employer. And what I mean is, you're always taught, like, as a manager, is like, he sits him down and goes like, well, what do you want to get out of this?
Loosely,
where do you want to, where do you want to advance? Like Gladiator, like, how can I help you as a manager? All right. I shouldn't say employer for obvious reasons, a manager. He's doing a good management. And he's like, I want to kill the general. And Denzel's like, alrighty.
I'll make that happen for you.
I'll make that happen for you. You just have to.
I thought was like early in the movie that should have been the signal, and I thought that was hilarious because at first I was like, "Oh, word! This guy is a liar," or "This is going to be the best movie ever," where they like team up and kill the emperor.
Well, that's the thing is he's not a liar though. Then he makes them fight each other, and then before they fight each other, he's like, "I gave you what you wanted." Like, this is it. You got your thing. Why are you mad?
Yeah, why did you chose not to kill the guy that you said I vowed to kill the guy?
Like I gave you what you wanted, and now you're mad at me.
On a platter.
Yeah.
What more of the other thing is that this Denzel Washington is like just like anyone who's betting on gladiators, just like totally has a windfall of success. like that he did not do anything for. Like
No,
you said, he's a good manager.
opening,
He's a nice
basically.
guy, but it's
Yeah.
not like he's the best at guessing who will die.
He's kind of the Joker in the sense that it felt like he realized
It
who
worked
Lucius
out.
was and was like, oh, damn. All right, I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to make this work
Yeah,
for me.
exactly. Exactly. He's
'Cause
just
he
kind of
starts
working
scheming
with
very
whatever he's
fast.
got, which is, resourcefulness is what we like in our, heroes and villains. But like, it's just funny to think of this guy who just stumbled on this crazy plot that existed, 20 years ago.
Right. What's
He's
great
just
is
like,
the,
this
also,
is fine. This will work.
they do a good job at you. Like once you realize he knows all the pieces, there's a moment where you think like, oh, okay, is he going to start helping Lucius now that he knows who he is, yada yada yada. And there's this great, like, I just love that turn moment where you like, then he goes to the Emperor and you're like, oh shit.
It was bittersweet because you thought that he would be the kind of guy who would hear the information and be like, all right,
And then you're like,
we can
but
work together somehow.
it's a great role because then you're like, well, what does he want? Does he just want to grovel to these two like ultra honkies?
No.
And then, the scene where he literally guides his hand to kill the brother who you think is going to be the main villain. And he ends up just getting his...
He kills he guides his brother, one brother's hand to cut off the head of the
real
other
Shakespeare
brother.
shit.
It's
the
real
scene,
Shakespeare.
The head scene where he's just talking to the Senate with the head.
Oh, it's
so good.
glorious. Especially because you have it's like a perfectly crafted comedic scene, to be honest. And I don't think that anyone who worked on this movie I don't know. I have a theory. I'm probably wrong about this, but sometimes I look at like people who make drama. They're not always the funniest, even when they make jokes, they can do comic relief totally fine, but like they don't have necessarily the instincts that a comedian would. But like I would be hard pressed to find a comedian that could craft a better scene than that scene in terms of like the 1-2 punch of Fred Hanchinger like giving power to the monkey.
Yes.
And then having Denzel come and give a monologue that is one of the greatest comedic monologues of all time, where he uses a head and like looks at people and he's like, I'm in control now, basically. And they're all like, yeah, and just shots of these doofuses in the Senate just going like, I guess this is the new reality.
It's such a good like, oh, we're fucked moment. Again,
Good.
It's clear that like there was some thinking about Trump in this scene where it's like, it's this combination of incompetence, this clown show, the Emperor just being like, I nominate the monkey, and then Denzel coming in and like, I forget the monkey's name, but he's telling everybody to hail it, and Denzel does like comes in and goes, yeah, hail monkey, like shit. he's trying to like hype everybody for it, like, it's great. And then, he's just strolls in with this sack that casually takes out the head.
He's like, by the way, I have the head of the other guy.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh, clutching their pearls. And he's like, no, don't do that. And they're like, oh, I guess we can't do that.
It's just such a good moment of everybody in the room realizing how fucked they are at the same time.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's so funny.
It's a perfect, like it's just one beat after another of like funny, like. I don't know. It's great.
I was like ear to ear the whole time. People were laughing in the theater. Like it was joy. It was just like, holy shit. Like it was those moments. Because it was also like, this performance is great. The moment's great. It's so silly. And it's perfect.
It's perfect because I think it doesn't know that it's perfect. Like, this is another thing that, like...
I think it's the best scene in the movie.
It's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
The other one is politics.
It's politics. Yeah, because the senator takes him aside, and because... Yeah, Denzel's plan is basically he's doing terrible things under the old emperor's name, so that then he can say, like, it was them.
Yeah, he's
and so,
just
like,
making a chaos.
The
he's
emperor,
the Joker, baby.
Yeah, the other emperor's like, are we sure we should kill this other senator? And he's like, yeah. And then the other senator takes Denzel aside and is like, you realize the crowd is going to rise up, and he's like, yeah, and then I'll blame that guy and have his head, and that's politics.
That's politics.
and then the center is just like, oh, okay.
Oh,
cool,
okay.
cool.
I guess that, like, you're saying this openly in front of guards. Like, everyone is cool with this. Like, there's no, I guess there's no overseer whatsoever. Oh, I see.
The guards are over there like, I think I'm going to quit.
Which is the point. But the thing I want to mention is like, other laughable moments that weren't intentionally laughable. That's what I wanted to like kind of design that like, or just mention how like that scene, which is a comedic masterpiece, is almost accidental. Not because it wasn't intended to be funny. It was definitely intended to be funny, and they like hit all the beats, but also it's funny on another level of just like, oh, you didn't realize how like spastic this is, or like how you like missed the mark a little bit. And there was a moment that I really resonated with me in terms of the audience's reaction, which is that when Pedro Pascal and Connie Nelson, who plays Lucilla, who is, from the old movie as well, and they're together and they're like, oh, we're going to do a plot to overthrow the government, which ends up not working. But they're like, okay, we're going to do this. And there's a shot of just like one of their slaves.
Oh yeah,
who's like,
who
like, brings the water or whatever. And she is like huddling next to a corner and hears it and like goes, and then like bounces. And everyone in the theater laughed. And I was like, I don't think they intended us to laugh there.
No,
I think
because everybody knows what's happening. Like
everyone knows. We've seen enough Game of Thrones
soap opera. Again, it's soap
intrigue.
Opera.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things that I think an 80-year-old man is like, well, you gotta have that scene in there. And it's like, yeah, but we also are like, as an audience, modern lexicon of like watching movies and just like audiences understanding how film grammar works. Like we've seen that so many times because that is just like what's made our TV and movies, all it's this
amnesia.
intrigue.
I have amnesia. It's like, it's just such a,
And it's just like you're not adjusting to that. And that's one of the weird things that I think is out of touch. And it's a harmless aspect because it's like, totally storytelling. Totally story. It's totally fine. Like I almost was angry at the audience for a split second for laughing. And I was like, no, that's actually really funny.
No, what it is that everybody's enjoying it. And that's what I mean when I said I love this movie, is because it's like, this movie didn't need to be like this to me is like, whenever I watch a movie like this, I'm like, yes, this is what movies are. And what I mean by that, I'm like, listen, making me like Everything Everywhere All at Once, making me like feel this existential, like bittersweet feeling. I mean, that's huge. That's great. Eraserhead, like, David Lynch, like doing that weird thing, Skinamarink, like movies can be really artistic or weird. Yeah. But like, I've always thought of like, what is an entertainer? It's someone to like play a piano in a room while you're eating. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and it's that where I'm like, yes. Are you not entertained, folks? Are you not entertained? Yeah, where it's like, this is it. It's just like intrigue and soap opera shit. The part that made me laugh that the audience did not laugh at is when Connie Nielsen gets nailed with the arrow.
That was pretty funny too.
Because it was the exact same place as his wife. And I wanted him just do like a Joe Arrested Development. Come on.
Yeah. Really? Yeah. It's just like,
stop it.
And I also love that, like, it cuts away to Denzel Washington. He's like a little ghoul. He's like, I'm not going to shoot at the guy who could actually take me down while I have him, while he's crying over his mother. That would be a perfect time to send a second arrow, is all I'm saying. And he doesn't. But it's just like the shot of Denzel there is so funny too.
Oh, shooting her right in the chest. Denzel also, I don't know what this is. I think it's just because it's Denzel. The idea of Denzel firing a bow and arrow, I don't know. Like, there's something about that that's very funny. It's like watching like Channing Tatum do it. It's just someone who I've just never thought about holding a bow and arrow and firing.
That's true. It is a mind fuck. I also just think that like Denzel is an older man, and that was like a powerful arrow. I don't know.
I was thinking about that for the fight where when he fights Paul Mescal. They did a good job with it because I was like, he's just gonna murder Denzel.
Yeah, he's like, this is Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson here.
Yeah, Denzel is very old, but I think that's part of the casting where I'm like, Denzel does scare me. He is a scary guy. Like all he has to do is like talk at him. But they did a good job where it's like he fights dirty. And so he
kicks sand in his face and throws
like sand
embers.
and ash, and then like starts drowning him. And
Which I loved. Which I that to me the greatest thing about this movie is that it ends, and it's like I hope they don't make a Gladiator 3. I don't even know what that would be. I didn't know what Gladiator 2 would be, but they all tied it together with like a plot that, frankly, is This I keep thinking about Connie Nielsen's
story. It made sense with the kid. I was just like, oh, okay,
it makes
cool.
sense, but it's just I think of Connie Nielsen's character where it's like I had a husband or a lover that this very specific thing happened to, and then it happened to my son as well.
Yes,
it's just very
weird.
silly to me.
Right, but I had remembered that they sent the kid away. That idea. So for a Gladiator, for this, it's like, okay, they sent the kid away. He becomes a slave. He becomes like a secret prince. Got it. That works, right?
I mean, it works,
but it is very funny that he becomes a gladiator again.
I don't truly believe in sequels because it's let's just do all the hits again. And this one does that. I mean, there's no sequel that doesn't really, except Aliens, I guess.
I was going to say, any sequel that does extend it in some way. Because, like, if you were intending to make sequels, it's more of like sequels to movies that were never written for sequels, right? Like, there were a few, apparently, wasn't there that modern day Gladiator 2 idea that was going to happen? There was some crazy, people Google it, there was some crazy sequel ideas to this that they've been playing with for a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I kind of want to see all of them.
Like at this point, like, I don't know. You just wait another 5-10 years and just make a new Spartacus. It's fine. Yeah. Like, you just make a new guy. Like, I don't, but I mean, whatever.
This is, it might as well be a remake. You know what I mean?
Exactly. This is almost, at times, this felt shot for shot. Especially when we were doing the Act 1, which we kind of sped through past in this movie, and I'm kind of glad we did, which was kind of the fun and games of the first one, which was him winning everything that it was thrown at him. There was a lot more of that in Gladiator 1 in terms of Russell Crowe is like, oh, he's the underdog. Oh shit, he just killed everybody. Right. And then a few days later, well, he's definitely not going to make it this time. Oh, he did. And you get that vibe because they do enough beats, but they like kind of montage it because they're like, yada, yada.
You wouldn't be watching this guy if you didn't know.
And they know that that's kind of why we want to watch the movie, is that like that's a big part for us. And that's why sequels work. Sequels work because it's like, hey, let's do that montage again, but like slightly different. But it does feel like a shot for shot, like, him being driven in a carriage that's a big cage across the streets and everyone's spitting at him and stuff like that. It's all those scenes that you're like, this was in Gladiator 1. Yeah. Like literally that shot. You could throw in footage and I wouldn't notice.
Yep. The shot where he picks up the sand and rubs it and she has the flashback, like it's like Maximus. That made me laugh too, because I'm like, surely he did that very publicly. That's not like, surely a lot of gladiators have done that, like chucked their hands and used the dirt. And so it's like, I just thought like, does she do that every single time? Every single time another gladiator, she's like, is that my son?
It's my son.
But then there's the very funny part where they see the bust of like their grandfather. It looks exactly like him.
So much like him that it's like
I'm like, why didn't you put this together when you just saw him?
At a time when like statues were not that like definitive. Like not everyone is Michelangelo, like everyone is like making crude things where it's like, okay, we're going to go for this feature and this feature and this feature. And that's him. And that's Marcus Aurelius right there, baby. And it's like, literally look at that guy. That's the same guy.
This is the shit that I like miss, because like in a Marvel film, they'd make like a joke of these moments.
Right.
Like they would be like, isn't it funny how we're doing this? And I'm like, let me laugh at your cheesiness. Just be a level of cheese that's acceptable, that you've just deemed acceptable, and be a movie. And like, it was great. Like, I don't know.
That's a blockbuster.
Yeah. There were moments that like the Pedro Pascal shit was emotional. Like that shit was really good. Like that felt like some of that stuff felt like I was like, I'm right there with you emotionally. Mm-hmm. And then other stuff I was like, this is silly, but I loved it. And I wanted to explore, the turn. You made a good point on his turn, because I literally thought he was going to have like a wife dream where the wife is like, yeah, go do this other thing.
I forgive everyone.
He did need some sort of like moment of permission. Or a push. Yeah, or a scene later where his wife's like, what the fuck, man? You're not avenging me anymore?
Yeah, that'll be great.
I don't care about Denzel. What is this shit?
Yeah. No, it's
I was fighting against Rome. Be with join the guy who's killing Rome. But like that's the idea, right? Is he wants to kill Rome. He literally, they say like, who's your enemy? And he's like, everybody in the Roman Empire at one point or something.
Yeah, all the armies of Rome. Yeah.
So the arc is I'm learning to lead Rome and forgive Rome, as opposed to destroy Rome like Denzel. But there really isn't like a moment.
I think we're supposed to believe that moment is when he goes in and sees Maximus's like shrine.
Yes,
right? Because in terms of when the scenes are, like oriented, that is the scene that would be the thing that would, everything after that, he's like, I have a different mind of stuff. But it's tough because it's an internal moment. And you need verification for that in order for an audience, I think. It's one of those show don't tells that's really hard, because it's just the brain of your main character working, and you got to, how do you see that through performance? Well, some amazing actors find ways to do that. Some amazing directors, they didn't really do that work, to be honest.
I think there's also, I think that, and this is kind of a cop out, in their heads, I think the reveal that he's Lucius, is supposed to like nerf his original revenge. And what I mean is that the reveal that he is of Rome, and that he does, because that scene where he's like, fuck you, mom, you abandoned me. I think the reveal there, because it's almost unreliable narrator, where you realize this whole time he's been secretly wielding this other grudge.
Yeah.
And so like, it's this bigger grudge against Rome. And so it's almost, the reveal is like, no, he's not mad at Rome because they killed his wife. He was already mad at Rome. He was already bitter. And so it's like this larger thing that it's like, it's still his home. I think we're supposed to have the idea that like, because it's his home and his family, there's a built-in forgiveness there. Like the aliens in Star Trek Insurrection that are going after their parents, and like a few of them have a turn at the end, and they don't really explain it. You just need them to be like, it's my home, it's my parents, I'm not going to, like, I feel like it's that idea, which is that like there's this implied loyalty that was there that didn't need to be explained, that it was like, no, of course he's not going to kill him. He realizes now he's always been secretly missing home. You know what I mean? I think that's the idea.
Right, which doesn't feel true anymore, because tradition isn't looked at in the same way that I think it was when Ridley Scott and Francis Ford Coppola came into being. I think that is a change of culture. I think culture...
Also,
I don't know.
I can't speak for
all culture, but
why didn't she go find him? What? It's like Anakin freeing his mom.
Sucks.
Where you're like, what took you so long?
And because she's like openly admitting, like, she's like, oh, they said you might be dead, but like I always knew.
Right. She's
and
like,
it's
hey,
like,
buddy,
motherfucker, if you always knew, put some work into it. She's like, I've always had people like who are going to kill me. Like she has some line about there's been a knife to my neck, right. Since the beginning. I'm like, doesn't really look like it. You were married to the general of the armies. Right. I'm pretty sure you had some, like, both emperors loved you. Like they were conflicted when they were like, we have to kill you. Like they were like, can we not? Like they literally were in your corner. Yeah. It's just, it feels like she was incompetent on some level about finding her own son.
Right. She could have been more upfront. I don't know why I mean, it's like, hey buddy, all right, it was top of my list for a while and it just kept getting bumped down. Then I met Pedro Pascal and God, he can fuck. And we just got into a thing and it got really intense. And I don't know. I was going to get around to it.
Right.
Just never did.
I mean, there is
she should have been kind of a villain,
flashback
honestly.
where you're supposed to, I think, assume that she sent the horses that come
horses
when he's
can't
a boy.
Find children.
Where there's a boy. The boy is like playing with other boys and then he sees the horses and he's like, oh shit, it's the Roman Legion. And he runs.
Right.
And
the mom sends him off. The woman in there is like, you must go.
Mother. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be amazing
there's no communication. It's like, well, send it to someone learn their name, find a way to organize a way to contact them. Otherwise, they're going to think that someone sent a bunch of people to kill the boy.
Right. It's like putting your baby on a boat. You could have
avoided that.
It's like putting your baby on the boat, putting it in the ocean and going, I'll come back for you. Yeah. It's like, no, that thing's going to die. Like it's like a false wish where she's like, I'll totally come back for you, kid. She went out to get
solvable.
She
went
out
to
get
fact.
smokes.
Even if it was like urgency was the reason that she can like do all of this, which I totally believe. That's a beat. She's still, as a mother, I feel like if you really cared about your son, you would be like, okay, well, let's put some detectives on it though.
Do something.
It's like, no one can know because she can't trust anyone, I guess is what we're supposed to believe. But I can't believe that. I can't believe that this woman has zero people to trust.
Yeah. And, that's how you get Denzel'd right in the chest.
The other thing is
how it happens.
Apparently Denzel and her knew each other. Like,
he was
a slave for Marcus Aurelius, right?
I would argue he knew her, she didn't know him. Meaning that like she probably didn't even think
Which is also funny. And he doesn't throw it into her face, which I'm surprised he didn't. Which is like, she's like, I don't know who you are. I thought she was going to be like, have an aha moment in that scene where she's like, you were that guy. I knew you. You were that boy that I knew when I was a girl or something like that.
I liked it better where it's like
you're
one of many faceless servants I had.
But it's like, why even bring it up? Why even bring it up?
What? Him bring it up?
Well, like what? No. Why even like the movie mention that they were tied together as in their youth? I guess it's just the Marcus Aurelius connection.
Yeah, they wanted Denzel to basically have a personal grudge, and then that's why
the dream
why he hates them. Yeah, because I like that detail where Denzel, when she's awaiting execution, Denzel is like, by the way, you don't recognize me. I have the brand. I'm one of the slaves of like your grandfather. Anyway, have a nice execution, fucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're just like, oh, he's been waiting to do this his entire life. Like he's doing his own revenge story, is what I gathered. Is like he represents revenge. He represents rage, the idea of where Lucius begins, right? Where it's like, and what I liked is like, I love this about villains where I'm like, yeah, he doesn't feel wrong.
Like, there's the best villains are like, I mean, Killmonger, Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3. Yeah. Like these people who are like are unimpressed.
The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
People who are unimpressed by any of the machinations of what we determine is good or bad, and they're just like, no, I'm just going to go do, like, I want revenge for the sake of revenge, or I don't care about your story. I only care about doing my thing. There's something haunting about that. They're like a force of fear.
So I'm going to use the system to then collapse this fucked up system where it's
Right.
like, yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Like he's trying to think about net good, where he's just like, if I just destroy Rome or let Rome eat itself,
If I just do
Because,
a
like,
genocide, it will be fine.
right? But look, yeah, exactly. No, but look at like everything the movie is showing that Rome's doing, where the emperors are like, we must conquer the world, and it's just like, Denzel he kills the bad guys essentially, but then the idea is he kills the bad guys, and he's like, yeah, and he says the quote, right? He says the slave dreams of like owning a slave himself or whatever. Like that's
something.
and that's
along
what
those
it
lines.
is. It's like he's killing the bad guys so he can be in charge and also be a maniac. That's the reveal.
Yeah, man. Hurt people, man.
Exactly. Hurt Denzels.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic villain thing, because with the best villains are the ones you understand, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to like or dislike them. Usually I dislike them, but that's not what movies and stories should go for, is the dislikability, the twirling of the mustache. It's more of like, oh, that guy's kind of got a point. Oh, that's kind of tragic when it all comes to pass,
Right.
because he's gonna die. There are compelling performances, and you can't convince me otherwise.
His
That
death is great.
the best villains, even if they feel a little bit mustache twirly, it's because their performance is evoking of compassion, like Hans Gruber in Die Hard.
Yeah.
There's nothing redeemable he does.
Yeah, but
even
he's
his
likable.
plot,
He's weirdly likable.
even his plot is not like Denzel's in this, or like the Jokers, or like the ones we mentioned. There's nothing redeemable about it. It's just the fact that he is kind of likable, because
It's likability.
and he's also pointing at a system and saying that's flawed. You can be right about that and also want a genocide,
Sure.
and therefore should be thrown off a building or
Exactly.
stabbed.
Well, that's
in
the
the
thing.
heart.
Hans Gruber, he just wanted to rob like
He's just
corporation.
a thief. Yeah, that was the whole
And it
point.
was like, man, it's the same with fucking Jeremy Irons, the other Gruber, where it's
It's
like,
the same Gruber, yeah, basically.
yeah, he was also likable. He had a great relationship with that knife lady. They had a
Right,
thing going.
But I mean, it's more of the commentary on, well, you guys are vampires of the common man.
Just vampires.
This
but yeah.
building is a temple of, its own injustice, because you're stealing money from people, because you all these rich lawyers
Yeah.
sitting in your ivory towers, et cetera, et cetera.
They're way better. I was way more on their side than this one, Denzel, because you're like you said, where it's like he's not wrong, but then the things he's going to do is going to be horrible. Like that's the whole thing. Is he's using
really
the
emphasize
people as
that.
pawns. Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was good for the movie, because that's a good emphasis. Because,
Also,
but it does make him mustache twirly,
Right.
like where he's like he didn't have to be that guy. He could
It's
honestly
also-
be more like Killmonger, where I think Killmonger's a better villain, honestly, the way
For
that's
sure.
portrayed in Black Panther, just because he's like,
Well-
I'm not here to like kill everybody, just the royal family.
I was about to say,
Just you.
Killmonger is such a better villain that I felt like they actually had to do some stuff I didn't like to villain him up. What I mean is like Denzel, I'm like, yeah, fuck these emperors. But
'Cause his
Denzel
point is so
Denzel's right. Denzel's an accelerationist, right? So it's like he wants to burn it all down, and that's going to cost a lot of innocent lives. So it's like his end result, the thing he wants, I don't fully, I'm like, no,
You
that's
can't
not
stand
that's not good.
beside. Yeah.
With Killmonger, they had to do that scene where he randomly like kills his second in command.
Yeah. And
And
it's
I
like,
was
where'd
like-
that come from?
Yeah, where'd that come from? I was actually following you the whole time up until that
Because
point.
if they didn't, he wouldn't be a villain.
Exactly. And it's
Really.
just like I want more villains that are really good employers. Who
Yeah.
are like really nice to their employees, who like their employees like really, like I want more of that. Like I want ones where the good guy is like, "Where's your henchman?" And they're like, "His wife's having a baby." And so I got him like, he's on leave. Like I want villains that have like really healthy like a really healthy structure system within his organization.
Right. And
why not?
Yeah, let's normalize that. Let's make just small business owners a thing of the past, baby.
Yeah. I like that. I like villains where it's like,
but no,
it's man,
point
I'd
taken.
work for this guy.
Yeah, he's just.
I want more Hank Scorpios. That's what I
exactly.
want.
Like, because it brings up the grayness of it all, and that's more interesting than Black Hat, White Hat. Black Hat, White Hat offers a lot of comfort in times of confusion and times where there is no seeming moral authority.
Yeah.
But I believe that humanity is most interesting for its lack thereof. It's that's the why we are attached to anti-heroes. That's why we like villains, that we kind of understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
Because if we have that, then we have a story that is like feels cascadingly like just leagues beyond just the spy versus spy that I don't know, westerns, send it all the way fucking back, like this is just the story that we tell all the time. And that's what superheroes have kind of invited to the zeitgeist is for 20 years basically, or I guess 15 years. We really push this agenda of like, this guy's very clearly bad, this guy's very clearly good.
Yeah. I have no more thoughts except 3 words: suicide by monkey. That also was a highlight in this.
Yes.
Because he was weighing that. He was like, listen, I need to die.
Yeah.
Is this, and they're giving me a monkey, and I guess that's what I'm going to have to work with is a monkey.
I also love the hint at like he clearly has syphilis, because at one point, apropos of nothing, the other emperor is like, he's talking nonsense. He's
not
whatever's
that monkey.
got going on.
I was talking about the guy in the Gladiator ring. Suicide by monkey.
Oh, suicide by monkey, where he just I thought you were talking about the little monkey that the emperor has.
But that guy has
No. Early on, there's multiple different monkeys in this film.
But the guy who's on the boat who's broken his arm, and our main guy is like, "Come on, man, you'll be all right." And in his eyes, he's like, "I'm gonna die the first chance I get."
Yeah, he's like, "I want to go to heaven, and I am in pain.
Yep.
Gladiators suck. I'm not gonna live.
Sucks. Yeah. I don't want to be here." And he's like, "Come on, I'll protect you."
So he
and
just
then
runs at
the vicious monkey is, he just kneels and goes like, "Come on, monkey."
Yeah, which is, I love how they like, obviously they like starve those monkeys or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love how like out of the gates the monkeys are horrifying.
Yeah.
Like they feel more akin to something that you would see in A Quiet Place than you would see in a zoo.
There's this implied, again, it's sort of making the case for why Rome needs to fall, is there's this implied decadence that is specifically geared towards like, this is a horror movie for animals. Like the rhino head, the sharks, where you're like, how'd they get those sharks? I don't think it was in a humane way that they got all those sharks in the Colosseum.
How do you get the sharks out?
I feel like they burned through a lot.
That's my question.
I don't think you do. I think you just flop them on the street.
Flop them on the street, let them die, and you're eating shark tonight. Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, no, it's true. I do love there's little varnishes to scenes sometimes that, like, I think that James Cameron does really well, and Ridley Scott does pretty well. And there's one in this movie with the rhino where after the aftermath of all of the battle, and just for context, basically our main character Hano does the LeBron celebration at the beginning of his games, where he dusts up he kicks dust in the rhino's face basically, and the rhino doesn't know where the wall is, and so he like crashes into it and like almost kills himself, like breaks his horn, I assume. But then there's a shot in the wide shot at the end where it's like, and that was the end of the battle. The rhino is just like crying, just in the corner,
like, I hate
just
this.
Like and it's just like, makes you really feel for the rhino. Really good, first off. But also it's just like one of those things where it's like, fuck Rome. I love that moment by Ridley Scott does more for fuck Rome than most of the movie.
I was trying to find the pet monkey's name on IMDb and I can't find it, but I did come across there is only one actor credited for the role of Gladiator. That's it.
Strange.
And like everybody else,
everyone else has a name.
Everybody else has a name. And I just think that's funny because he's probably like a featured extra. But at bars, he can be like, I was in Gladiator 2. And they're like, who'd you play? He's like, I'm the Gladiator.
I'm the Gladiator.
Look it up. I'm Gladiator.
Look it up. That's really funny. Now that I'm looking back at all the fights are like, because it's almost immediately after the baboon fight or whatever. He's like the headliner. So he's fighting some like guy who is like, undisputed champion, undefeated, or whatever. So they all have names. And then later it's like, we're going to kill them. And it's the Imperial Guard, who's fighting in the ring, which I don't know if that happened or not. Who cares about historical accuracy with Gladiator 2, frankly. But I'm sure they put a lot of work into it. I'm not taking away from the beautiful craftspeople of Gladiator 2. But I think you're right. I think there's only probably one guy who's just like, and we just need to fill in the holes. That guy doesn't get a name.
He's just Gladiator.
That's insane.
There's also multiple, and this shows the dad film of it all, of Women in Danger. There's 3 credits for Wailing Woman.
Oh, okay.
There's 4 credits for Female Concubine. It's like, women are in danger.
It's not really represented in this story.
Not great for them.
Not great for women.
You're gonna get an arrow in.
You're gonna get an arrow while you're tied up.
Yeah.
Because of your plots. That's the other thing. She was plotting, so that's why she got killed.
Yep.
Jesus. Yeah, but watch it for the fights, and Denzel is undeniable.
It gave me exactly what I needed. Nothing more, nothing less. It was just like, yep, this was a lot of fun. Ultimately, I don't have any complaints, meaning that like you can nitpick little things here and there. But when I watched it, I was just enjoying it. It washed over me. It was one of those where when I came out of it, I was like, oh, damn, I was supposed to be thinking about this for a podcast. It was one of those where I was like, for 2.5 hours, I was just enjoying a movie. And I wasn't thinking about it in any analytical way.
Yeah. Honestly, there's only a handful of S-tier sequels.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie is not S-tier for sequels. But it's probably one of the better ones.
I'd say
like
so.
You can't expect much more out of a sequel given what sequels are.
Yeah.
It is a rehash of the hits. There's enough to kind of keep it fresh, but more or less you're watching new people do the same old things, which, one could definitely argue that's all movies ever were. But yeah. I agree. I enjoyed myself throughout this movie, and there's just numerous performances that will probably still be talked about. It's got that kind of staying power, at least, even if the overarching tale isn't necessarily one that needed to be told.
I think Denzel should get a nomination.
I think he'll probably get one.
Yeah.
He is of that clout. I think there's Joseph Quinn, you mentioned, Fred Henchinger, Pedro Pascal. There's a lot.
Oh, everybody in this
Paul
is
Mescal.
good.
There's so many good moments in this movie that I was taken back by, because usually sequels are charmless and cash grabs. And this may still be those things, depending on how you define those things, but it is not without its charm.
Yeah, it felt fully committed. It was just like they really, I don't know. Like you said, it really has a lot of charisma throughout. Like the performances are huge. I'm glad I was expecting Russell Crowe's like voice to show up at one point or something like that.
There was a bad line.
No Ghost of Crow.
There was no Ghost of Crow, although there's at one point, there's a scene where there's a conversation where the protagonist says, "What we do here echoes in eternity."
Right.
And that's like the slam dunk line of like, that's the end of the conversation. And then it continues. And then he says another line that fills the same void in that conversation. It's like he had two dunks on Denzel.
Punchlines.
And it's like, you just choose one. And you don't really need the Echoes in Eternity line because like that doesn't get you anything other than, remember
yeah, that's the kind
Russell
of line
Crowe
that
said that.
Normally someone would go like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
I do like that they updated though, instead of like, because I thought they were going to have the whole like, are you not entertained shit, because that's what a sequel might do. And they had that moment where he does he says something to the audience, but it's a good one though. I don't remember the line. It isn't as memorable as a single line, but he starts yelling at the Roman audience for like, he basically goes, this like, what Rome's about? You kill your generals. You like, that's,
he basically
you're
says,
dumb.
Like, imagine basically what they'll do to you is what he's saying.
Imagine what you'll do to you. Yeah. Which is great. I like that he's calling him stupid and also in their corner at the same time. Yeah. Because I like that it cuts to the audience because they're like screaming for blood. And then he says that line and they're like, yeah. They're still like.
I liked the audience. I wanted to be a part because I like that the audience at some points is just like, fuck this. And starts like attacking the archers and shoving them down and like. Good old riot.
I love a good old mob.
Yeah.
Nothing better than a mob, man.
They're a good mob.
Yeah. And that's Gladiator 2, I guess.
And that's Gladiator 2. Abe, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man. This is a joy.
It was. Do you want to plug again? Plug it in?
Patreon.com/smallbeans.
That's it.
Do
it. Check it out. A lot of great podcasts. I was listening to the latest. Well, I was listening to the latest fucking D&D one. I was listening to what did you guys just do? Fucking one-upsmanship about the Star War.
Oh
yeah, about the Star
War Outlaws. That I'm not on that show. That's Adam and Swaim, but the video game podcast.
No, I was just talking about the beans, but yeah,
and also. If you haven't watched the D&D, because Dave's in it, so people on this network who love Dave, we all love Dave. He's killing it we have a podcast at Small Beans /video series. It's also, you see our stupid faces.
Yeah.
Where we do D&D, play D&D. The fourth episode that just dropped is behind our paywall, unfortunately. And I think it's one of the best episodes of anything we've ever done, just because we are murder hobos, and it's so much fun to see our DM Michael Swaim squirm, and it really is a delight to do, and also you should check it out. But like I said, in order to get the whole series, you're gonna have to join us at Small Beans.
Yes, and we also I'll plug Gamefully, patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed. We do co-podcasts with the Small Beans, such as Star Trek: The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. Those are the two you can catch on both Gamefully Unemployed and Small Beans. And check out Gamefully Unemployed if you haven't. We also have exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's a Maniac. We watch movies every Friday night. You guys watch them every Monday, so we got Friday and Monday covered.
Oh yeah,
and we'll get the rest of the days eventually.
Honestly, just between Gamefully and Small Beans, you got your content covered, baby.
Oh,
as soon as Tom gets back, I'm eager to do more Spiel Boys. I don't know when that's starting again. It should be soon though, right? Should be soon.
I don't know. I'm not Tom.
You're not Tom.
I'm not Tom.
I miss him, man.
Yeah. I miss him. R.I.P. Tom.
R.I.P.
He's arrow to the heart. Denzel
shot him in the heart.
Shot Tom in the heart.
But what he did echoes in eternity.
Hey, listen, our music is produced by Chris Corlew. You can find him on twitter.com as the Corlew, or go to shipwreckedsailor.bandcamp.com. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. For more of his work, go to mvbramley.art. Our episode artwork is by Justin Brown, available on Twitter as Justin T. Brown or at artnessbyjustinbrown.com. And finally, additional artwork is by Starlene Hodge. You can find her work at starlenearts.com or on Twitter as StarleneX. Cool. Goodbye.